check, check, 1, 2. Hey, 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 check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. Hey, check, 1, 2. Check, check, check. Yeah, one of these cables that we're using is bumped. I gotta make sure I level this all out properly. Yeah. Check, 1, 2. Hey, check. So I don't want to turn up any gain knobs here, and so I gotta make sure that the audio here is good as well as there. So
You want me to stop this?
no, no, no. Finish what
Okay.
you're doing. Just
How do I get the graphics to upload?
how do you add it to OBS?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Is it? It's just an image.
yeah.
So press that. No, no, no. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Right there. That one. Image.
It's actually like a video.
It's a video. So I think media source. Okay. Click OK. Browse. And yeah. Out there. Click OK. And then you can make it smaller or
Here, Sasha, check it out. That's cool, like that. See it? And then you're gonna change the setting. So okay, how do people see it?
you have to go about it. URLs. Okay.
Yeah, but let's see if it's not showing up on the thing. Yeah.
Now you, yeah.
This
Well,
is
are you doing a public?
yeah.
It's all public.
So when we
I,
start,
I'd wait until we like
everything.
10 minutes before we start.
Yeah.
Unless there's a break.
Yeah.
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 Is it going to be the same link if it's like not live or live?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No.
All right.
Oh, so you're gonna just share that? I don't know, because I moved it. I don't know where it went. Oh, because it ended after 30 seconds.
You can loop it. Hold on. Here, let me see.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go move my car, so I don't get a parking ticket.
Gotcha.
Will be, and then headphones. We're not gonna be using headphones, correct?
Not unless you need them, but that would be another process.
No.
Would you prefer it?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right. I'll be right back.
Take care of that.
I guess you guys, will you help him with the? Yeah. All right. I'll be right back. That's okay.
So I made sure to disable that.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know what we're going to do about this lighting. It's so low. I'd like to be able to get a better angle. Oh, you know why? Not great in low level lighting.
Check 1 2. Hey, check 1 2. 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 Hey, check. Oh, sorry.
1, check 2, check 1. Check, check. Mic check. Check 1, check 2, check 1. Check 1, check 2, check 1, check 1. Andy, 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 Andy. Ray Bourque is the greatest. Ray Bourque, Ray Bourque, Ray Bourque, Ray Bourque, Ray Bourque, Ray, Ray, Ray.
Final check on this mic. All right. Check 1 2. Check, check 1 2. All right.
Is this lights okay? Do you think
You want to check your cameras?
Yeah.
All right.
That looks good.
It's a little dark. Maybe get some light on that one.
Yeah. I'm having trouble getting
This light, like,
I'm not too sure how the lighting stuff goes, unfortunately.
How about now?
It's better, but now it's in the other cameras. Like,
I am. I just, it's like.
all you can see is that giant light.
Okay, on which one? On
That one right
So
there.
I'll move it.
All right. I don't know like, which cameras. Maybe put it here.
do you want the light or just eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that look, son?
It's actually been live the whole time.
But like, it's not showing this stuff.
It is.
Oh.
Yep. That's why I wanted to do tests before everything.
Do you think we need these lights?
No. That's better. I position the camera.
What about that one?
U.S. Hockey League? Yeah, that's the name. U.S. Junior, U.S. Junior, U.S. Hockey League.
Oh, wait. Which one's so then, should I turn this back on?
Probably.
Okay, now try.
That's as much as you got.
How are y'all doing?
Just sent this.
Ready for this? Already on the back.
Check 1 2. Hey, check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hey, check 1 2. Check. Hey, check. Check. Hey, check 1 2.
Are we good?
Hello.
#1 choice for an air-supported structure. Crampaid, based on science, not sweat. The best sports drink on the planet, and Hockey Prospects Radio. Before they make the NHL, hockey prospects are showcasing their talents in junior and pro leagues across North America and Europe. Take a peek into the future with Hockey Prospect Radio. Tomorrow's stars today. And now I'd like to introduce our host of the show, the longtime voice of BU hockey, 37 years to be exact, voice of Harvard football for the past 25 years, and the host of Hockey on Campus on Sirius XM NHL Radio, Bernie Corbett. And Bernie Corbett's guest tonight, who needs no introduction at all, though I'll make an attempt. He's the all-time leader in goals, assists, and points for defensemen in the history of the NHL. Quite the hat trick, Mr. Bourque. A 5-time Norris Trophy winner, a Stanley Cup champion, and Hockey Hall of Famer. It's my pleasure to introduce number 77, Ray Bourque.
Is this live? Hello, check, yeah. Hey, hi everybody. First of all, I'd just like to welcome everybody to Tresca. Thanks for coming out. Bernie, I've known for a long time that my son played at BU and longtime voice and pretty much everything at BU. And I reached out to Bernie this winter where, I'm in my vehicle a lot, going to get coffee or this, running around in Florida, and I listen to NHL Network on Sirius Radio, and every Sunday morning he has, is it a 3-hour show or?
I'm only one.
Okay, an hour show, but it's it's fabulous. And then I heard about the podcast. We talked and we said, a live podcast would kind of be fun. I don't do all that many podcasts. I only do podcasts with people that I know very well or I feel very comfortable with, or buddies or people that could beat me up. Well, I did one with Chris Nyland, so you mentioned.
He's in that category. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think Jay's doing one yet, but just welcome. Really happy that this worked out. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully I keep you guys from falling asleep. Maybe you won't need sleeping pills tonight, but pretty interesting career. So should be fun. So Bernie, all yours.
Thanks very much, Ray. In the year 3AB, that's after Bobby, Bruins country welcomed a worthy successor to the legendary number 4 and a continuation of a lineage of Hall of Fame black and gold blue liners that dated back over a half century to the iconic Eddie Shore. Raymond Jean Bourque, a proud native of the Montreal suburb of Saint Laurent, came to Boston in 1979 and had an immediate impact, winning the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year and being named to the first of his 19 All-Star games. That's more than Wayne Gretzky, by the way. After 2 decades as a model of proficiency and consistency, the longest-serving captain in team history, the heart, soul, conscience of the Bruins, headed west to Colorado in his quest to capture the Stanley Cup. In the ultimate career-capping moment, Ray won the Cup, took a victory lap in his final game, and then returned to the hub of hockey for an unprecedented public celebration of his personal achievement. Playing a home game off ice tonight, a slap shot from his on-ice home on Causeway Street, it is with great pleasure that I welcome the consummate Bruin, the complete defenseman, the blue-collar superstar, number 77, Raymond Bourque. Pleasure to be with you here tonight, Ray. Anybody that may have familiarity with my show, Games People Play, we go back to the beginning and back to the roots to tell the story. And Ray, in your case, the roots go back to, as I mentioned, Saint Laurent, Montreal suburb, obviously a hockey-crazed area of the world, no doubt, probably the most hockey-crazed area in the world, the most rabid. And you had a hockey background that dated back, I believe, to got on skates about the age of 3. I believe was playing on an organized team about the age of 5.
Yeah, so it started, my my dad was in charge of a rink right across. We grew up like in these apartment buildings, and there was this parking lot that was vacant parking lot that the city where I grew up, like every quarter mile or half mile, it seemed like there was a hockey rink with ice and outdoor, high boards and all that. But right in front of my house, there was just this ice with short boards, and I was very young. I was probably 3 or 4 years old when I started to skate, but my dad was in charge of the lights. So he could keep him on as late as he wanted. Not that I was out that late at that age, but that's where I started to skate. I used to put my skates on in the house, walk across the street, and jump on the ice, and that's where it all started. And then by the age of 5, I was on a team, Termites. It all started outdoors. We weren't indoors playing in arenas. In Montreal, very lucky that we had outdoor ice. Like once it got cold, it was cold for 3 to 4 months, and it wasn't like Boston where the parents break their butts to make ice, and you might have it 4 days in a month, and then it's water and it freezes up again. But Montreal wasn't that case, so I just started playing mites and outdoors, and then played mosquito. That it was like termites, mosquito, peewee, bantam, midget in our hometown, and you had an A that was a town team that would play inside your town. Little called Notre Dame du Bois-Franc, was like just a little area, and then you had intercity double A that was representing your city, Saint Laurent. So I played mite hockey, then mosquito hockey. I got notice, and I was asked to play double A hockey that you played against the other cities in Montreal. So this was a travel team, and the top level you could play called up until, how far do you want me to? I'll just continue with that, right?
That's all right.
So
Go with it, Ray.
so
You crossed the blue line.
and I'm a good player, a very good player, but I'm not like this superstar. It's like me and my best buddy still to this day were termites. We're the only two guys to score goals on our team. So we're a little better than everybody else. And as we went up, and then once you start playing against the other towns, you might be one of the best players on your team, but you're playing against other really good players. So the competition is at a good level. And I was always, a really good player. And 1 year I would play forward. Then the next year I'd play defense. Then I'd play forward. I'd play defense. And I think that's what really helped me with my instincts, offensive instincts, where I'd play forward and then defense, and help me be responsible, but then again know how to play offense when needed to or whatever. So, but at the age of 13 years old, that's when I started to play strictly defense. And I think that's when I started to separate myself from my peers, when I was 13 years old. And I was playing 13, you're like, even if I'm playing peewee, the Bantam team was allowed to call me up if they were missing players. So they'd call up like the best player on the younger team to come up and play, and that would happen to me every once in a while. I'd go play with the older team. But then when I was 13, then I turned 14 playing midget, my first year midget. I had just turned 15 years old. And when I tell you I started separating myself from my peers, that was kind of, it was really happening then, because I was just turning 15 years old. And now I grew up watching Junior B. Like, every Tuesday night, Junior B would play in our hometown. So all the hockey buddies, all our friends would go to this game, and we'd cheer real loud for our Junior B team. And, that was like 16 years old to 20 years old. So I had just turned 15. Now I get a call. They call my house. They call me up when I just turned 15 to Junior B. Now it's like, are you friggin' kidding me? I'm going to play with 16 to 20-year-old guys that are shaven, have beards and mustache, muscles, and hair everywhere. That was really scary, And so I remember my first game playing Junior B, and I don't play much early in the game, and my buddies are sitting right behind the bench, and they start yelling,
Yeah.
we want Bourque, we want Bourque, and I'm like, shut up. I'm very content here, sitting here for 3 periods.
Bourque don't want Bourque.
Yeah. So, anyways, the first game, I go out and I get an assist in my first game. It was like a stupid assist. I knock one off the boards. I remember the guy's name. Henri Arqui picks it up, goes in, and scores, right? So I get an assist my first game, and I never go back to midget. I finished playing junior B hockey that year. I mean, a 15-year-old playing with these guys, and I won't tell you where they brought me. I will tell you that they had me drive their cars sometimes. But the stuff that I saw at a young age was crazy. So then I played junior B hockey, and then there's the junior major hockey league across Canada that has a league in Quebec, Ontario, and Western Canada. Those are the top leagues where Wednesday night's draft is going to probably have 70% of their players that are going to be drafted out of that league than the U.S. and Europe. Probably not 70% anymore, but very close. So it's a top league in Canada for amateur hockey, and some college doesn't call it amateur hockey because we get paid $30 a week, and we have
Tainted.
$30 a week, and then $40 a week, and then $50 a week your third year, and that's like makes you not
Ineligible
yeah,
for the
exactly, for NCAA, right? While they're making all this money, and
How things
Yeah.
have changed now
yeah,
with NIL,
yeah, exactly.
et cetera.
Anyways,
Yep.
so not that I ever would have gone to college and wanted to go to college. I knew nothing about college, but high school, that was it. So I play. I get drafted by Three Rivers, and I don't know if you remember Michel Bergeron that coached the Quebec Nordiques, New York Rangers. He was my coach and general manager, and we had an amazing team. I was having an amazing year, off to a great start, and he trades me in January. So we're in first place. He trades me to the last place team, and I was crushed. I was crying like a baby, and I could not understand why he traded me. I was, 15, just turned 16, and one of his best defensemen at that age. But he had a good team, and he wanted he needed a scorer, and he traded me for an older player that was a very good scorer in that league. And 2 weeks later, he breaks his wrist and can't play the rest of the year. So, so that was how I got into junior hockey.
And a couple of names that shaped you early on. One was Bob Davis. He was the one smart enough to. Your brother-in-law was your coach at 13. He was the one smart enough to say, "Hey, kid, your days as a forward are over. Concentrate on playing defense."
Did you talk to my sister? Jesus.
Ray, this is what I do. I go deep.
Yeah. No, Bob. So during that time too, I lost my mom. I was 12 years old. She had colon cancer, and so then, but that's how my sister lived. So we were in a duplex, and my sister and Bob, and I think it was Kim, the daughter at that time, very young, but lived on top of. We had the lower level, they had the top level. So when my mom passed, my sister and Bob took really good care of my brother and I. And Bob was coaching one of our teams, one of my team at that bantam age, and he kind of had me play defense. Noticed that was probably the best place for me, and but Bob wanted credit for everything at some point in time, and I was like, Bob, relax.
And being drafted and then traded by Bergeron. By the way, that guy was Benoit Gosselin. Was the guy that broke his wrist. They went defense for offense, and had the opportunity to settle in. And as it turned out, that team, the Sorel team, you mentioned last place team, ended up moving to Verdun, which was great for a guy that was a pretty big fan of the Montreal Canadiens to be in Verdun, the Canadiens practice rink for the next couple of years.
Yeah. So second half of the season, and when I got traded, I was in a really good billet family, and then I got traded, and I'll talk about the general manager and GM of the general manager and owner of the team that I went to was Steve Casper, and I played junior hockey for 2 years together, and we always said that there's nobody that is going to be able to intimidate us as a coach in speeches or scare us or anything like that after spending 3 years. I spent 2.5 years with them, and Stevie spent 3 years with them. He was a friggin' nut. And I remember being traded, going to this new billet family where there's three of us in a room that the bed's no bigger than this and longer than this. And then I get in bed and there's like 3-4 springs coming out in my back. And I'm like, so I call my dad the next day. I'm like, Dad, and that was the first year in midget AAA. That is an amazing league and across Canada that a lot of these players end up going to play college from. And that was the first year of the midget AAA that I practiced all summer with them. Because if I wasn't going to make the junior Three Rivers team, I was coming back to play midget AAA. So, like St. Louis, they were called. So I tell my dad, I said, Dad, get me out of here. I want to go back and play midget AAA. I said, I'm not last place team. You traded me. I'm still of age of midget. This place I'm staying in, it's like, so my dad talked me off the ledge. He said, Ray, settle down. Give it a week. Let's talk in a week and see, if you feel the same. And so next thing, a couple of days later, they get me in a new billet family that was tremendous. So, now I'm going to practice. The guys are awesome. We got a really tough team. We're not winning many games, but we're winning many fights. And a great bunch of guys. So it was awesome. It was good. And but then when I come back to the general manager and owner of the team, he was a lawyer, a very smart man, but an alcoholic, and he was an icebox. He's probably 5'6" and just like built like an icebox, right? And walk around and friggin' always just look on his face. And then I'm practicing. He says, come see me after practice. I'm like, okay. So I go see him. He says, sign this. I said, what am I signing? He says, you make the NHL, I represent you. I'm like 16 years old. I said, I can't sign that. I said, I got to have my dad look at this. Tell your dad to be here tomorrow. Like, okay. Tell my dad. My dad's there the next day. And this guy represented some players that came out of the Quebec League and some good players and all that. Well, he's got me now for the next 3 years. Right? Well, yeah, this is the first year I'm there. And back then, the underage draft wasn't back into the league. So I could possibly be there for 3.5 years. So he's got me, right? And my dad looks at it. He represents other guys and says, sign it. So I sign it, go on to play 2 years because of the merger. The WHA merged with the NHL. And so now the underage draft comes back, so I'm drafted at 18 years old. So now, want me to go on with this? Because this gets good now.
Shape, yeah, exactly. Yep.
So now I'm drafted. And it's not like Wednesday night where the guys are in the crowd and they call your name, you go up, you put the hat, the jersey on, the big picture with everybody, right? That year, because of the merger, the draft was August 4th, and everybody was being drafted by, like, the Bruins were in their office at the Garden calling in their draft picks. So I'm teaching hockey school in Verdun, and I get a call saying, hey, your agent's on the phone, get me off. I'm on the payphone. He tells me I was drafted by the Bruins 8th overall. I'm like, awesome. So now we have a month to negotiate because camp is, around the corner. Now Harry Sinden flies into Dorval to meet with us. Now we're in the Crowns room, Delta, and we're sitting down, and it's like, you're going to love this kid. He's a really good player, and yeah, we're really happy about drafting him and all that stuff. So now negotiation starts, and my agent, Rodrigue Lemoine, says, we want 3 years and an option at $100,000 a year, and we want a $100,000 sign-in bonus. And if he doesn't get that, I'll have somebody break your legs. I can't make that up. If you ever see Harry Senden, so listen to this. So Harry had a goalie named Eddie Johnson that
Oh, yeah.
played for the Bruins, right?
DJ.
His brother was head of the Irish Mafia in Montreal.
Yep.
So he tells Rod, he says, Eddie Johnson played for us. He says, if you have something done to me, Eddie Johnson's brother is the head of the Italian Mafia. I'll have to have something done to you, and the kid won't have a contract.
Yeah. Quid pro quo. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm never going to play in the NHL.
You mentioned about the draft. You were the 8th selection. The Bruins got that pick from the LA Kings in a trade, and the word was at the time, Ray, that and I love this in quotes, that the Bruins settled for you. They had their eyes on a guy named Keith Brown, who went one pick ahead to Chicago. Had a pretty good career. He played almost 900 games in the NHL. Had a 16-year career, but I don't recall seeing him ahead on the all-time list of you. So I think the Bruins settled very nicely with the selection of Ray Bourque at that number 8 slot.
Do you want to know how they got that pick?
That was the Ron Graham trade?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the Bruins had like 3 goalies, right? They had Ron Graham back then. Cheesy was in and out.
Career. Yep.
No, but I played a year with Cheesy, but he was hurt. Then they had Seaweed. They had what? But Ron Graham won MVP in a WHA.
That's right.
So
Denver.
the Kings, the year before I got drafted, the Kings call on the Bruins asking that they need a goalie. They want Ron Graham. And Ron Graham wasn't playing much for the Bruins. But Harry says, listen, I look at your roster. There's really nobody I like on your roster. If you're talking about a first-round pick, we might think about it. So, and this is LA now. LA is with the GM and the owner. And he's sounding pretty good, right? The GMs were always kind of hitting it pretty hard.
Good old boy network.
Yeah. So he says, okay, I'll come back to you. So then they called back a little later on. Now they're really feeling good. Harry could tell on the other line. Says, are you sure there's nobody on my roster? I got this guy. He says, I don't need anybody on your roster. If you're talking about a first-round pick, I'll think about it. He says, okay. And he said, you know what? Ron Graham was MVP of the WHA. That's a hell of a goalie. A prospect, a guy that we have high hopes for and everything. You think I'm just going to give him away? He says, okay, we'll give you a first-round pick for him. He says, I'll think about it. I'll call you in the morning. He gets off the phone. He calls Tom Johnson, his assistant GM. He says, we just got a first-round pick for Ron Graham.
Worked out pretty good. Here you were being drafted. You mentioned by the Bruins, no fanfare like it is today with the cameras and the ceremony and the rest of it. And of course, growing up in the Montreal suburb, you were a pretty big Canadiens fan at the time. And I note to anybody in the room, and some may leave the room here, the infamous too many men on the ice game. You've got a story where you ended up in front of the Forum that night and was in a pretty good mood about the results, not surprisingly. And little did you know, just a couple of months later, you're going to be the Bruins' #1 pick and be in Boston.
Yeah, that night I played in Verdun, like I said earlier, and Verdun was hosting the Memorial Cup that year, and that's the Canadian Championship of the 3 leagues of the highest level in junior hockey, right? So that night is the finals. It's the Brandon Wheat Kings against Peterborough Petes. So Brandon has a stacked team. Peterborough has some really good players. Couple of those.
And up your teammates.
Yeah.
Brad McCrimmon.
Brad McCrimmon.
Keith Crowder.
Keith Crowder. I think No, he wasn't on that team. Anyways, I watched the game, and I didn't have a license. I didn't have a car. Grew up, with not all that much, but made up for it. And that night, to get home, I've got to take the bus. So my connecting bus ride brings me right in front of the Forum, and that was the night. Too many men on the ice. Yvon Lambert goes to the net. Mario Tremblay fires it across. Bang, they score. They win in overtime, and we friggin' beat the Bruins again. And I'm like in front of the Forum. Yes, again. And I'm the kid that used to go to the parades when the Canadians won the cup. It's a day we can miss from school. All my buddies, we go to the parade, right? So I'm like, and then 4 months later, bang, it was all over with. And but that was fine with me. And the minute I got to Boston, I knew. Well, and after, should I tell? Did I ever tell you the Cash story?
Wayne Cashman,
Yeah,
on
Brad-
your arrival.
Yeah, Brad McCrimmon and I.
Mhm.
So Brad McCrimmon was 15th overall, another defenseman that was really had an amazing career in the NHL and ended up being in that plane that went down when he was coaching in Russia that is no longer
KHL.
with us
Yep.
in the KHL. And so Brad and I, they fly us into Montreal to meet the press and, to talk to the press, spend a night. We get there the first day, meet the next morning, we're meeting the press. We go to the garden, see the garden, no ice, but it's dark and you could see, it's going to be a really cool building to play in. And then we meet with, the Herald, Joe,
Yep.
I think it was Joe Gordon, then Francis, what was his name?
Fran Rosa
Fran Rosa.
from the Globe, yep.
And talk with them, and then we're in Harry's office, and who walks in is Wayne Cashman, the captain of the Bruins. We're like, wow, cool. And Cash comes in and says, Harry, I'll take these guys for lunch across the street at Fours. He says, Cash, they got a flight at 3:30. They're flying back today. He said, yeah, no problem. This is like 11:30 noon, right? So we go to Fours, and now we're like sitting down, and we're like this. And there's no better storyteller than Cash. And and after you know him for a while, he tells the same stories over and over again. But they're really good.
It was all new to you then, though.
That was the first time I was hearing him, right?
Right.
So now, we're drinking beer and we're with Cash and we're feeling pretty good. Now, John Carlton is the head scout of the Bruins back then, and he calls the Fours. Cash, I'm picking him up. They got to go. He says, they're going nowhere. He says, they're playing softball with us tonight. The Bruins alumni, the Bruins had a softball game that night. I don't know if it was Charlestown or Revere or something like that. I know the bridge wasn't far, all right? The Tobin Bridge wasn't far.
Yep.
And I'm a really good baseball player. I grew up playing baseball and softball, and it's like they stick us both out in right field. I can't see the ball. I strike out. We're signing autographs, and it was an amazing introduction to Boston and Wayne Cashman. So we both flew back the next morning, and Brad was going through Montreal as well, so his flight was a little later. So he ended up coming to my hometown, my house, for a few hours, and that where it all started for him and I. And we roomed together, we played together. They called us Pork and Chop, Mutton Jeff, you name it. They called us. And yeah, so we had a lot of fun, and so that's where it started.
And you're beginning with the Bruins' auspicious debut. You didn't waste any time. You got a goal against Winnipeg in your first game. Mentioned about the Rookie of the Year, All-Star selection your first year,
You
first time.
missed it. It was first non-goalie to
Well, I have it. Oh, yeah. First non-goalie.
first non-goalie to
That's
what?
right.
To what?
Calder and all first team All-Star.
First team All-Star.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yep.
There's only 6 players that are voted on the first team All-Star.
That's right. That is the first team, and you were a selection. And 65 points was a record for a rookie defenseman for your offensive prowess that year. And as far as your demeanor around the team, and it's pretty amazing to think that just, 5 years later, you and Rick Middleton will be sharing the captaincy, that you were so quiet around your teammates that Peter McNabb, for one, said, this kid's from Montreal. I don't think he speaks English. I mean, you had as good a gig as the chief in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You had them all fooled.
Yeah, well, I was quiet. I was a really shy kid growing up. I didn't say much. Pretty much let my play do the talking. Brought an amazing energy and passion to the rink. That was the rink. Once that door opened up, that was my escape. That was my just, that's where I let everything out, and I just loved it. Peter McNabb was wrong because I spoke perfect English. My parents are from the Maritimes. I grew up speaking both languages.
Yep.
I just didn't say much. I just listened and watched. And I had a guy like Brad Park take me under his wing from the beginning, that I was just like a sponge. And another storyteller, all those older guys. I mean, I came in. I played with Jean Rattel, Jerry Cheevers, Wayne Cashman, Gary Doak, Don Marcotte, Rick Smith. There's probably 5 of those guys that won the Cup in '72 with the Bruins. But, I mean, characters like Cheesy, like, he was like, who's the guy that had the Playboy house there?
Oh, with like you Hefner?
You Hefner.
yeah.
You Hefner on
Yeah,
the road,
Ron
right?
Chivas.
Not the girls. But he
Without the girl.
But he had. We'd all go up to his room, and he'd have the robe on, the slippers. he had the beers. He had a little food. Guys would play cards. And down Jean Rattel, the classiest guy I've ever played with, just like as straight and as amazing man. And man, what a player. Then Cash, another character, but Parky, another guy. But Parky would come on early with me and stay late on the ice with me, and then I would just follow him around like, the cartoons, the little dog and a big dog, and it's like, hey, I was that guy. So Parky was amazing with me, and I think I played 3 years with Parky. So when you talk about captaincy, for me, leading by example and, working out, preparation, all the stuff that you need to be good and all that stuff, bang, natural. Leading on the ice, doing your job, taking charge, and all that stuff, bang, no problem. So I'm rolling. I'm playing off to a great start, and then Cash retires. Then Terry Riley becomes captain. Oh, I didn't even mention Taz. Taz, the ultimate Bruin in my books is Terry Riley. I think you open the dictionary to what is a Bruin, his picture should be there. The hardest working, toughest guy I've ever played with, and the best coach that I've ever played for. And he had never coached at any time. And your first job is NHL coach, right? The guy, one of the only coaches to get me right here when he spoke. But Taz was captain, and then he retired. And now the Bruins are like, they come to me. And they're like, and I'm 25, turning 26, I think, 26.
1985, yeah, 25.
And I'm like, what? Because when things are going great in anything, right, it's awesome. But when the shit hits the fan and you got to deal with shit, it's not fun, right? It's like a relationship. I mean, when you know that you're going to have to face things, right? Or you're going to have to wake up tomorrow morning and we got to have a talk. We got to sort this thing out. Well, now you got 22 wives, and it's like, and that scared the hell out of me. I really didn't know if I was ready. All the other stuff, no problem. But taking charge, and when things have to be handled, when things are not going well, your captain usually leads the way. So I said, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable to do that. And everybody's telling me, Ray, you got to be, you're captain. You're friggin', you lead this team.
Step up. Yep.
I'm like, I said, I don't know. So then they decided that, and I looked up, like the next guy on the list for me was Rick Middleton. Like Nifty was there. He's the oldest guy. He's pretty much our best player forward. And I'm like, what about Rick Middleton? So they decided, what about if you guys are co-captains? I said, awesome. And it was the perfect way to transition into that leadership role, that next level that I had to take. Because now, we do it together. Rick was captain at home. I was captain on the road. Then halfway through the year, we'd switch to C. And you know what? When you're captain, when you're on a team, it's not the captain only. You have a handful of guys that are leaders in that room that come together and kind of sorts things out. But the captain still has to stand up and deliver the message and to do all that crap, right? So that was awesome. I was really blessed and happy to be able to transition into that role with Rick Middleton that I thought really deserved it.
And during that time, of course, the Bruins, they were in the midst of what was a 29-year North American professional record for making the playoffs every year. You had your career year, almost 100 points, 1983-84 with the 96-point season that year. And
missed games.
With missed games, you probably would have come up with those 4 points somewhere, exactly. It would have made the century mark.
You know, when you watch NHL Network and you see all the 100-point defensemen and you're like, where is he?
Didn't mean to bring that up. It's a painful memory.
Or
four short. 96 tears. It was a hit, right? Same with Ray, 96. 4 short. Shared that captaincy, mentioned for 4 years with Rick Middleton. And the Bruins were close, and we're just going to take a quick break. Chew Dog Hockey to be heard from. And we'll come back, and we'll talk about the 2 Stanley Cup final seasons.
All right.
Hello? Calling all 07 to 09 hockey players looking to improve their game and unleash their grit. At Chew Dog Hockey Academy, great players become great people. Learn more at chewdog.hockeyacademy.com.
Thank you, Sasha. And trying to get a shot here. Here we go. You got that one right lined up? Thank you. And mention about the Bruins during the 80s. Consistent, contending, but it was always, maybe one player away, Ray, in terms of being able to get over that hump for to actually be. And the Bruins made it to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in your career. And in order to get there, the Bruins were able to accomplish something that hadn't happened in 45 years. And we're talking about the other curse. Red Sox fans will remember one curse. But this particular curse in the most played rivalry in the history of the NHL, 934 meetings and counting. And from 1943 until 1988, the Canadiens had beat the Bruins 18 consecutive times in a playoff series. The old joke about the rivalry between a hammer and a nail. And it took your 1988 team to be able to bust that curse and did nothing to dissuade Harry. Remember what Harry used to say about the 3 most certain things in life? Death, taxes, and first penalty in the forum. But that 88 season was a special one, and that 4-1 dispatch of the Canadiens and the fact that you won Game 5 in the forum, the emotions for you that night as the lifelong Canadian fan and now the face of the Bruins franchise, to be able to bust that curse and get in a position to play for the Stanley Cup against Edmonton.
Yeah, we really started 86, 87, 88. That started to be, Terry had retired, Cash was gone. The only guy really left was Nifty, and all those guys that had been drafted from 79 to that point it really became our team, and we really took off on a nice run in 87, 88. We had a great year, and I'm from Montreal, so every year we'd play the Canadians in the playoffs, and I'd go home and I'd hear it all summer long. Like, what happened? You did it. You did it again. You lost this, that, all that stuff. Well, we end up getting it done in '87 to allow us to get to our first finals for our group, but it didn't come easy in the first game. I think we got blown out 6-1, 5-1, 6-2, something like that. And I just remember the meeting the next morning where Taz is going friggin' bonkers. He's going nuts. Like, we got destroyed in the first game. And I just remember Steve Casper getting up and saying, Taz, guys, it's one game. It's one game, right? Then we go on to beat them 4 straight.
That's right, ran the table.
It was amazing how we recovered. And probably the best thing that happened was us getting kicked in the butt like we did that first game and just reacting after that. So for me, that was so special. I remember Harry Sending coming up to me after the game, says, this is like winning the cup. And we get back to Logan that night. There's like thousands. I'm saying 1,000 to 2,000 people in the airport waiting for us. We got state troopers making a line for us to get through the airport to our cars. It was nuts. And this is the second round.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So then we go on. That was the year we played
Devils
New
in the
Jersey,
conference final,
New
yep.
Jersey Devils in the conference finals, where we had to play with 3 replacement referees. I don't know if anybody remembers the yellow jerseys on the refs, because remember Koharski,
Jim Schoenfeld.
have another donut. You've had
Yep.
you effing whatever.
Yeah, you fat pig, right? That's right. Jim Schoenfeld, the coach
So
of the
then
Devils.
they wanted the refs wanted Schoenfeld suspended, and they didn't come out for the 6th game. Game 6, semifinals, Stanley Cup playoffs are played with the goal judge that is in New Jersey usually. One of the guys working the penalty box, and another guy doing the game. NHL hockey semifinals. We lose that game, of course.
Forced the game 7.
So then we come
Yep.
game 7, come back to Boston, end up winning that, and going into the finals and playing the Edmonton Oilers with Gretzky. And that year we didn't really match up all that well, so we went down 4 straight. That was, but the run to get there was amazing. Finally getting there, but that was it.
And that was the final Stanley Cup for Wayne Gretzky in Edmonton. He said he was on another planet, even for his prowess with 49 points. He set the playoff record, 13 points in the final alone in 1988. But as you mentioned, after getting by and being able to.
But I forgot to say, did I say that after beating Montreal, it was the quietest summer I ever had
That's right.
in Montreal? I'm like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
hey, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What happened to you? And it was a pretty dramatic turnaround in terms of what would happen in the rivalry. The Canadians came back. They won the next year, but then the Bruins had great success after that. In 90, you won again in 5 games, and 91, 92, and 93, a couple of Game 7 wins over the Canadians, so dramatic turnaround. And then we get to 1990, Ray, and I know that you've often been quoted about 1990, different circumstances getting to the finals against Edmonton. No Gretzky, still obviously had Mark Messier and an array of Hall of Fame talent. But I know that you've often referred to that was the year, or that was supposed to be the year that you really felt confident. You matched up better with Edmonton, and this was the year that the Bruins were going to climb the mountain and win the Stanley Cup.
Well, we matched up way better, and I thought we really had a legit chance. The first year we get there, combination, you're so happy to get there, but then you get there 2 years later, and you're like a lot of the same guys, right? But an improved team, and thinking, okay, we're here. It's time to do something with it. And that first game that went to triple overtime,
Oh.
and Klima had not played in 5 periods. One of their skill guys that they just sat because of whatever, and comes out the 6th period and ends up scoring the winning goal. And so and we had played really well. We, Glenn Wesley, remember the open net with, I mean, Glenn never looked at the net. He thought he had to get it over Ranford, and he got it up too high where it went over the net. We lost that first game, and then we came out game 2 at home. We had home ice. That year we had won the President's Trophy. That might have been
Not necessarily a good thing, Ray, as we know.
No, I know, but
Yeah, 8 out of 45 have won the cup.
yeah, but I was one of those teams that won it. But anyways, that's
Yep.
for later.
Yep, that's right. Well, we'll get to that. Don't
yeah.
worry about it. Yep. Your Rocky Mountain moment.
But in game 2, we come out. We're out shooting them halfway through the game by a pretty good margin, and we're still down 3-1. They were so explosive, and that Gretzky wasn't there and all that, but they had the kids lined out. Murphy, Julina, and Graves.
That's right.
That
Joe Murphy,
through
yeah.
that whole playoffs was such a key line for them, and wasn't really nobody really expected them to be a big factor in the playoffs for them, because they were just starting their careers pretty much. So that was we went 5 games, very disappointing, but again, getting there is amazing, and it's so hard. The hockey playoffs, it's such a grind, and it's so hard to win, and regardless of the talent. And I'll just touch on the Bruins a little bit. Just this year, I mean, we're all still in mourning, and just think how they feel, and they were set up like for all the teams that they've had. That 2011 team, for a few years, they were built for the playoffs, but this team this year was built for the playoffs compared to what they've had in the last 4 or 5 years, with the trades that they made, and just their goaltending, their defense, their leadership, the veterans, the talent, the toughness, the size. They were just built for it. And then, I mean, look what happens. It's crazy. So that's playoff hockey. And
I remember when we first talked in January, I said, boy, things are really going well, and that hockey superstition kicks in, and Ray says to me, maybe a little bit too well. I hope that they hit a little bit of a down patch here somewhere, and you proved to be, unfortunately, prophetic about that.
but I thought they could handle that.
Yeah,
I thought they were veteran
get through
enough,
it.
and I thought they were good enough and all that. And hey,
Yep.
they were up 3-1.
Yeah,
I mean,
no excuses. Yeah,
They're kicking themselves like.
yep. Tough summer.
I'll be in there to help soon, Rich.
That's right. You can't say Ray's not versatile. I'll tell you, he's hands-on. You talk the complete defenseman, the complete owner too, the complete proprietor. It did take still the longest game in Stanley Cup Finals history. And before we move on, I just got to mention, you mentioned about Peter Klemer. One of the great answers of all time in a press conference, I don't know if you remember this, but they asked him about when he was last on the ice. And you're expecting him to maybe say, I had a shift halfway through the first period. Instead, he looked at his watch and said, I think it was about 7:45 was the last time I was on the ice. I think it was about midnight when he actually got the goal in that absolute
If not later, yeah.
game that entered into the bizarro world. Things were never quite as good with the Bruins in terms of being able to get another opportunity to win the Stanley Cup, get to the Stanley Cup Finals. We got to touch on this as an example of, I think, you being somewhat of a victim for your loyalty and the sacrifice that you continually made through your career for the organization. And in 1993, it clearly got ugly. You went to arbitration with the Bruins, and put yourself in a different position, or the Bruins put you in a situation where you really didn't have much of a choice at that point. I know you didn't want to do it, but how could you not do it in order to protect yourself?
Well, I wasn't only protecting myself. I was trying to protect my teammates and
NHLPA,
and
too,
NHLPA
Right.
and
with
you
the
know.
salaries at the time.
And Harry was always very proactive and smart about coming to me before my contracts were up, where it might have looked good for a little bit, and then people are blowing by you, and then at that point in time, salaries really start to escalate, and free agency loosened up. Um, Scott Stevens had signed a big deal, I think, with St. Louis,
Mhm.
like making $3 million a year, and then other guys, were making 4, 5, 6, and so I had to go to arbitration. There's no choice. It's sad that the Bruins brought me to arbitration. I still, to this day, don't understand it. And I kind of, yeah, it's something that's always there for me. I think my loyalty and how I approached everything, and being a franchise player, that it's just, I just couldn't understand it, and I think everybody in hockey couldn't understand it. So I go to arbitration, and the minute I walked out of there, you go through these preps, you prepare for this stuff like crazy. Their guy was friggin' amazing. Bertuzzi, his name was, or something like that.
Representing the Bruins.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
yeah, the
Yep.
league, yeah.
Representing the league, yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm friggin' average. I suck.
You came out of there thinking that you were in the lower
So
echelon of the league.
I knew,
Yeah.
I go in asking for $4 million. The Bruins are offering 1.75, and I come out of there with 2.25. So it was a tough call to get just before opening night in Madison Square Garden against the Rangers. But I put $1,000 on the board for the winning goal. Don Sweeney scored it. So it all goes into the pool fund for the big party at the end of the year. So yeah.
Social fun.
But it was really an experience that I wish I didn't have to go through, and one that I look on and I still don't understand.
And plays into one of the things that before we talk about the trade here, we'll take a break in just a moment, but plays into that whole mindset of the Bruins in terms of salaries and Harry. A lot of people said, well, it's not Harry, it's Buffalo, and Buffalo dictating what Harry wants to
But
do.
I'll just jump in on
Sure.
this. I think it had a lot to do with Harry.
Mhm.
Harry always said the salaries are going to destroy the league.
Right. He was
The
worried about the
salaries-
good of the league.
The salaries, the league cannot handle what's going on. But he was a dinosaur. He just he stayed around too long, because look at the league today, and he just couldn't accept that, because he's old school, amazing GM. What a smart man, smart hockey man. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Harry, and how he went about his business. But it was always, always that one or two players away.
Frustration.
88, 90,
Yep.
could have made a big difference. And he just couldn't accept it. He just could not accept it.
Yep.
So, and he had a lot of pride and a lot of, he was bang, old school.
And before we do, we'll just take a
Man, that food looks good though.
Yeah, oh, I know, absolutely. I was
Smells
going to say.
good, too.
That's right. We got our nose pressed up against the window here, But to that point, Ray, you had a moment in 2011 when the Bruins won with Harry that I thought was quite telling. After the Bruins won, and you were at I believe at a Stanley Cup celebration with the Bruins, where Harry, you were kind of his confessor at that point, in terms of taking the responsibility of not making maybe the move or two. And
I've
that was a
told you
moment
too
for you.
much.
Yeah, I've done my research here.
No.
Yep.
There's only one way you would have. You know that. It's because I told you.
That's right.
No, I'm at. They had something for the workers at the garden, and at the time I was doing some stuff for the Premium Club luxury seating at the garden, and I told Harry, I said, you know what, I lived it in Denver. All I could think about when I'm in the parade and celebrating and all this stuff is imagine this in Boston. And I knew exactly how it was going to be when it happened in Boston, and it was friggin' nuts.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I said, I have one regret that I didn't win in Boston. And he says, Ray, that's on me. I'm like, I didn't have to say anything.
Yep, absolutely. That spoke for itself. Before we, I'm just going to take another very quick break for our presenting sponsor. Thanks to Chew in just a moment.
Chew Dog Hockey Academy, hockey with heart. That's the Chew Dog way of giving back. A portion of Chew Dog's proceeds will be donated to ensure more athletes can play the game they love. Learn more at ChewDogDawgHockeyAcademy.com.
Thank you, Sasha.
Let's hear it for Chew Dog. Yes,
Chew Dog
sir.
Hockey Academy.
Thank you.
Greg Corsier and Chew Dog Hockey Academy, presenting sponsor here tonight. Ray, that brings us through the 90s, and there was, I think, a couple of opportunities there where you maybe thought about moving on, and it really got to a point where things bottomed out for the Bruins in terms of their standing in the league circa 1997. The playoff streak ended, and I think you even had convinced your wife at that point that maybe it was time to try to win a Stanley Cup, and in order to do that, you're going to have to go elsewhere. And I think everybody, the family, everybody was on board, and you had an opportunity now to be able to voice that concern to Harry Sinden and the Bruins management.
Yeah, the mid '90s. You know, we once that streak, and even before the streak, we're just, you know, making the playoffs and, you know, bowing out in the first round was really frustrating, and we weren't very good. Not that competitive, and I actually thought about going somewhere earlier. You know, whenever you go to these all-star games and you run into guys that their teams are doing really well, they're like, they kind of pull you aside and they're like, hey, they're thinking about, you know, they'd like to know if you're interested and, you know, would you be willing to move, or should we go after you, or more or less, or something like that. So I remember Steve Eiserman talking to me at one of the All-Star games, and I come home and I tell my wife, and things aren't going well for the Bruins at that time, and she's like, all in, like, yes, we're in, we're moving, we're going to go win. And then trade deadline comes, and I'm like, Chris, I'm really thinking about going in there and asking for a trade, and then it's like, I'm like, okay.
Second thoughts.
So stick around, and, you know, Pat Burns come. We have a little run. You know, we win a series against Carolina, and that was about it. And then it was just awful. The last 2 years I was here was awful, and it was embarrassing. And I just thought, I mean, I was 38 years old, and, you know, okay, I come to the rink over the Tobin Bridge with excitement and anxious about getting into the room, and energy and passion and all that stuff. And it's like, it was just so hard to go to the rink and feel that. So am I getting old? Am I 38 years old? Or, you know, let's maybe think about going somewhere else and having a run at the playoffs and having a big playoff run with a good team and see what that does for you and have some fun. So I decided that, you know, I was going to ask for a trade, and my wife was all on board, family, everything, and, you know, I was 38, so it wasn't going to be for 5 years. You know, I only had that year left on my contract, and depending on how it went, I was going to decide if it was going to continue or not. So I asked Harry for a trade. I wanted to go to Philly. I wanted to stay on the Eastern Conference. I was building a big house in Topsfield, and I wanted to be able to come back and forth when the schedule allowed me to see my family and then check on things. And Reggie Lemlin was the goalie coach for the Flyers. So I told Harry, he says, yeah, okay, I hear you. He was at the GM meetings in Florida when I called him, so he was right there with everybody. So I'm hearing what's going on Philly's side through Reggie. And my last game played with the Bruins was Saturday afternoon against the Philadelphia Flyers, and Reggie told me that before the game, says, it's a done deal that after the game, I'm going to be a Flyer, right? So I think if it would have been a done deal, I probably wouldn't have played that game.
Yeah,
Thinking
right.
back, but
Yeah.
but I thought, okay, great. So we play that game, then nothing happens. Harry's not around. I'm trying to find him. I go to the offices. I'm calling his cell phone. I'm like, Harry, what's going on? You know where I want to go? And I kind of thought it was a done deal. Obviously, it wasn't. So he doesn't get back to me till about 8 o'clock that Saturday night. And he says, there's other teams involved. Don't show up to the rink tomorrow on Sunday. And if it's not done by Monday, don't come to the rink. We're playing the Ottawa Senators. You won't play that game. So I'm like, okay. So now I'm getting a call from Patrick no, actually it's René Angelil, Celine Dion's husband.
Calling from Vegas. Yeah.
Is best friends with Pierre Lacroix, the Colorado GM. And he's like, hey, Ramon. Hey, how are you, Ray? It's René Angelil. Pierre does not know I'm calling you, but I heard that you might get traded, and he's saying this all in French.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really hard to talk that way, but he spoke that way.
Right.
And I had played golf a couple of times with René in Montreal, and I know him, and he says, Pierre doesn't know I'm calling you. I hear you might be traded. Colorado's would be an awesome place. You know, so many people there and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I was having dinner with my wife, my agent, Steve Casper, and his wife at the time. And I'm like, oh, thank you, René. Yeah. That was a great call to get, by the way.
Yeah.
Celine Dion's husband. I kind of used that later on after I retired, okay? I'll tell you about that. When you guys start out, when I start telling stories, I'll be one of them. So then I know Colorado's involved. Dave Elliott's playing for St. Louis. He calls me, hey, Ray, will you come to St. Louis? I'm like, no, that's not where I want to go. Then I knew Detroit, New Jersey was involved. And so, and I was hoping on Philly. So then now my wife and I are looking at schedules, right? All their schedules the rest of the season. Like, okay, so how we go here? Okay, we could come visit then, because I was going by myself. And my 3 kids, and my wife was staying back in Boston because it was March, and, you know. So we're looking at different schedules. Then, you know, the Bruins play on Monday night. I get a call from Dave Andrechuk that gets pulled off. A teammate gets pulled off the ice in warm-up. He says, Ray, they just pulled me off the ice. I think I'm going with you somewhere. I'm like, I don't know where that is, Dave, but hopefully we find out soon. So then the Bruins play their game. Harry Sinden calls me almost at the end of the game, tells me that I'm going to Colorado. And so then, you know, Pierre Lacroix calls me. Then the Avalanche are in Calgary. So then I get a call from Patrick Waugh. That's in a room with Joe Sakic, Adam Foote, Dave Reed, and Peter Forsberg. And they all passed the phone around, welcoming me to Colorado. And then the next morning, we're at the airport at 7 a.m., press conference. They sent a jet for us to bring us to Calgary because we're playing that night. And it couldn't have been a smaller jet. All our stuff, and I'm 6 foot, but Dave Andrechuk's 6'4". And we were like this. In the back of the plane, flying to Calgary with a stop in Kansas City to fuel up.
For a fuel stop on the way. And
Did I answer that question?
I think so.
Okay.
And you join an Avalanche team. I mean, what I thought about, I know you had interest with the Flyers, but I mean, Ray, an iconic team. I mean, Hall of Famers with Sakic and Forsberg and Rob Blake and Patrick Roy would all end up in the Hall of Fame as you would. And you come to that team, and also probably not just Celine Dion's husband's influence, but the most French Canadian, Bob Hartley, Pierre Lacroix, the coach, the GM, Michel Goulet, Brian Trottier, who was a guest on our show, Brian Trottier. So very much at home with that side of your bilingual there with that organization in Colorado.
Yeah, I never played with so many French guys in my life, even when I lived in Montreal.
Montreal, exactly.
No, it was an amazing team. They had moved from Quebec to Colorado, so even like the guy in charge of the media, the press, so many people that worked for the Avs were all French. So it was like, they're bilingual at that point, but so it was a blast. The team was amazing team.
Wow.
The most talented team I played with was that year and a half in Colorado. And I go there. We end up losing in the 7th game to Dallas in the semifinals. And I know that from the first game I played there, I know that this was going to be fun. When I'm behind the net with the puck and looking up the ice, and I come out and I see Haydu come across the blue line, hit him with a pass. He receives it and then gives it to Joe Sakic on a breakaway and scores. I'm like, I'm in a different place.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, and it was amazing, and I knew I was going back for another year. You want me to continue on that, or are you going to leave me?
No, just and of course, that the second season, you dubbed it Mission 16W. And it was truly a mission for that Colorado Avalanche team. Everything that they achieved that year, winning the President's Trophy, the Northwest Division, the Western Conference, and then all the way to the Stanley Cup. And oh, by the way, at age 40, move over Tom Brady. You're playing 27 minutes a game at age 40, and had 59 points that season, and added another 10 in the playoffs. So. You weren't exactly riding off into the sunset to retirement. I mean, you were a go-to guy, counted on, get to play defense with Rob Blake and Adam Foote, and were very much in the forefront. And I know you had a very strong, close relationship with Chris Drury, a longtime friend of mine from back at BU. It was almost like he was hanging around with his uncle, with the relationship that you had. But you recognized him as a winner, and winners gravitate toward winners, but you were almost like part of a rock and roll band when you're touring with the Colorado Avalanche with that talent and that flash and dash. They were an amazing team.
Yeah, well, Chris was a special kid. I got there my first year, and I was by myself, and Chris was single, and so we hung out a lot together, and we had so much fun on the ice. He's quiet, very intense, and a perfectionist, but we'd have some little plays that sometimes would score on off a draw. I'd tell them the bossy play, and I guess they had the bossy play at BU.
That's right.
And
that's right.
The minute we scored after that game, the first call he makes after the game, he calls Parker. He says, Jack, you won't believe it. Ray told me the bossy play, and we set it up, and I scored. He's like so excited to tell Jack Parker about the bossy play.
I got that on the other side from Jack Barker, so I remember.
But had a lot of fun with Chris. But I played that first year I go there, and then I told Pierre Lacroix, the GM, I was making $6 million at the time. I'm like, just give me one more year. I'm only playing one more year. I said, give me the same salary as last year, and we're all set. He says, no. He says, I'm giving you a 2-year deal. He said, I'm going to pay you $5 million and $6 million the second year. If you don't play the second year, I'll give you $1 million. I'm like, fine, okay, I get my 6. But in my head, Pierre, the only person that I told, other than my wife, is like, this is it. So we end up winning the President's Trophy. Patrick breaks the record for most wins by a goalie. Joe wins the Hart Trophy, scores 50 goals. Jesus scores 50 goals. And going into that year, the coach set the bar pretty high. His first meeting was pretty much cup or bust, but he set a plan on how we were going to execute that. And we spoke on the breakup the previous year, how, what went wrong and all that stuff. And we weren't responsible enough defensively.
Mhm.
And he challenged a team the next year to try to be the best defensive team in the league. And by doing that, with the talent that we had, that would give us an amazing chance to win. And we ended up being the best defensive team in the league that year. And Patrick won the Vezina, and it was just a crazy good year. So then we get to the playoffs, and we play Vancouver. Okay, so Mission
Vancouver.
16W.
Yes.
Before just entering the playoffs, I was thinking, like the Avalanche has, their thing was every series you have a cup that, the first cup is about this size. You win that, we put it up top. Then the next series, the cup's a little bigger that they present. Then you win that, you put it next to the next one. Then the third series, the cup's a little bigger, right? So you put that next in. And then we had the biggest cup was if we're going to win it at the end. But then I wanted to come up with a theme that came up with 16W. So it was 16 wins to become number one. And 16W, without knowing it, was the exit for where we played against New Jersey Devils.
That's right.
And what was that
Defending
place
champions
called?
at the
Defending
Brendan Byrne.
champions.
Yep.
Yeah, but that whole complex is
Oh,
called
the
what? The
Meadowlands.
Meadowlands.
Yep.
So
Exit
it was called
16W.
16W. So I had hats made up, T-shirts, and the hats were 16W here. But then in the back, it was like 16, the number 2, then a B, then the number 1, right? So it was kind of cool how it just, it was cool.
Mhm.
Guys were wearing the hats, the T-shirts, and throughout the whole playoffs. So it was really fun. And so we're knocking off wins and going through series. And so we win first series 4-0 against Vancouver. Then we play LA. We're up 3-1. We go 7 games with them
Oh, yeah.
and end up beating them in overtime. And then we play St. Louis and beat them in 5 games. And I can't believe that was the toughest 5 games I've ever played. And if it wasn't for Patrick Waugh and their goalie sucking so much, it would have been a 7-game series.
In the Blues series. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I mean, I got hit in that series. Like, I remember coming in, going out for an overtime period, and just going crazy on the team. And everybody's in the room like, this is like, we had lost. We were up 2-0. Then, no, we're up.
Against the Blues.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we're up 3-0.
And you had the 2 overtime games. You
Yeah,
had the-
and
4-3
when we lose.
2-1. Yep.
When we lose and we miss an open net goal, and then the second time,
Yep.
second chance, we go back into overtime. We win that one.
Yep.
But I remember going, and we're not playing that well in the third period, and everybody's in the room like, yeah, we got this. We're okay. We're playing good. We're this, we're that. And I'm just sitting in my seat boiling. I'm like, we fucking suck. We have no chance. I'm like, I said, okay. I stand up and I go friggin' nuts. I'm like, if you guys think we have a chance to win this friggin' game the way we're playing, I said, look at our D. I said, we've never gotten hit so hard. They're coming after us like friggin' crazy. I said, let's get in. I go ballistic. I'm not going to say everything I said, but I go nuts. So we end up winning that. I think it was first shift. We score and bang. Oh, thank God, right?
Yep.
But then we go into the finals against New Jersey, and we win game 1. We lose game 2. We win game 3. I
were the game winner.
scored the winner.
Yep. Power play.
We're going out for a power play. in the third period, beginning of the period, and like we're tied 2-2, and it's like, come on, guy, come on, who's got it? I said, I got it. I'm getting it. I got it. So I score on the power play, beginning of the third period. We go on, we win. Then Alex Tanguay tells the press, Ray called it. Ray called the winning goal. They come to see me. I said, yeah, you called it. I guess you called it. I said, yeah. I said, I call it. So you know how many times I've called goals? I said, everybody calls goals in friggin' between periods. I said, you throw enough stuff on the wall, something will stick, right?
That broken clock is right twice a day. Exactly.
So we win that, and then we go game 4, and we're winning. We're in control of the game, and Patrick messes up the puck behind the net and fumbles it. They score. They're back in the game. They end up beating us in game 4. Now we go back to Denver, tied 2-2. We don't lose at home ever, and we're feeling really good. They kick our butts. I think 5-1, 5-2.
4-1 in game
4-1.
5. Down 3-2 now.
Now we're down 3-2 going into New Jersey. Now this is cool, right, guys? We want to listen to this one because for me, it gets me because remember what I told you about playing my last year. I'm still not playing another year. We're down 3-2. Now I'm taking everything in. Before we go to New Jersey and that morning skate, this could be my last skate in our practice rink and just looking around with my guys and stuff. And now we're on a flight. This could be my last flight, last pregame skate, last pregame meal, last pregame nap, last game possibly in my career. All my family is there, my wife, my kids, my dad, my siblings, my wife's dad, her siblings, and my best friends are at that game. I bring them all in for that game, knowing this could be my last game, and I want them there for that. We friggin' win the game. Now, I bring them all to Colorado.
We're all headed west.
You know where that Stanley Cup check went, right? Now I know this is my last game. And knowing that and taking that all in was one of the best feelings as a player, and it was an amazing feeling. And you know, we work with sports psychologists to keep us in the moment, to stay present, to think about the process and all that stuff, right? What a test that 7th game was for me, to stay in the moment and think about the process, because we got up 3-0, and I'm on the bench, and I'm like, I'm going to friggin' win the Stanley Cup. And I'm like, Ray, okay, get back. Come on. Shh. Get back here. And every once in a while, it would get me. And then we were up 3-1 with a couple of minutes left in the game, and they want me out on the ice. And I'm like, okay. Then I come off for 10 seconds. Now they throw me back out there. Now, face off, they're showing this big face on the Jumbotron. The fans are going friggin' nuts. And I think I'm going to faint. I can't breathe. I'm like, I'm going to win the friggin' cup. It was amazing, amazing feeling. And then, let me tell you, Joe Sakic, an amazing, classy guy.
Yep.
I'll go back to training camp on him because he wanted to go for lunch. And I keep looking at you, and you're like, yes, you're with me. You're with me, 77, right? Should see her little Bruins and a little 77 chain here, charm. Joe asked to go for lunch in training camp. I go for lunch, and Joe's like, Ray, I even be in question, and it shouldn't be, and it won't be, but some friggin' stupid reporter might think, wow, okay, Joe Sakic, I mean, that should never be a question on this team because you're the leader of this team. And I said, but Joe, wow. But just, it says so much about the person. And him, he won the Hart Trophy, best player in the NHL that year, voted by, his peers. I said, the best assist you had that year is when you passed me that cup.
Yes.
And him, all he wanted to think about after game 6 is, Ray, how are we going to do that? How are we going to do it? I'm like, do what, Joe? The cup thing. I'm like, Joe, let's win the friggin' game. We'll have plenty of time to think
Wait.
about the cup thing. But
Right.
that was that guy. Amazing, amazing guy, and an amazing player.
And that moment, that cup moment that Ray just mentioned, with Joe Sakic giving Ray the cup to make that traditional first skate with the cup, it broke all tradition. And of course, the NHL and hockey is all about tradition, and it's never happened before and never happened since, and could quite possibly never happen again. And it was truly the ultimate moment for you to be able to take that first skate. Patrick Roy, of course, was a longtime rival and then a teammate. Ho-hum, he was winning his fourth cup. And I thought he had a great quote at the time about you and you winning for the first time. He said, "A name was missing from that cup, and today it is back to normal." Well said, Patrick.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about that night?
I think the statute of limitations is up, so you probably can.
No. Well, thank you, but I got a great story about, I had all those people in Colorado, right? So there were some of them staying in my house, some of them in hotel rooms, but I had this big van, a 15 passenger van, that driving them around with a driver and a big cooler in their van. So we go party after the game at this place called the Chop House, and then our general manager, Pierre Lacroix, tells me, "Bring the cup home with you." Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So now,
First night.
put the cup in the front seat. Now we all go back. We all buckle it in. I'll go back to my house. Now it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Turn on my street, start beeping the horn, put the cup on the sidewalk, the cooler in the street. We're out there till 5:30 in the morning. People are coming out of their homes. Amazing.
Tremendous. The cup moment, and after 20 years, and just as a point of historical fact, your wait for the Stanley Cup was the longest in the history of the NHL. 1,612 games. That's probably a record that'll never be broken in terms of how many games for Ray to finally capture the Stanley Cup, hockey's holy grail. So, well. Yeah. Worth waiting for, Ray, I would suspect.
Yes.
That was 1,612 games that it took to get there. We'll just take a quick break once again. Chew Dog Hockey, our presenting sponsor, and we'll come back and we'll talk about Mayor Menino and the rally at City Hall Plaza when we come back.
At Chew Dog Hockey Academy, our mission is to build the character and athleticism of every player. Join us for our elite youth hockey program and build your skills. Learn from special guests and unlock valuable life lessons. Learn more at chewdog.hockeyacademy.com.
Thank you, Sasha. As we come back, and to say that this next event that we're going to talk about is unprecedented, I think is somewhat understated. You win the Stanley Cup on June 9th in Colorado, and on June 12th, it seems strange to say because of what's transpired in recent decades, the championship-starved city of Boston, been 15 years since a championship at the time, just to give perspective, the Celtics had won in 1986, had been commonly referred to as Loserville in Boston at that time in 2001, welcomed Ray and the Stanley Cup to City Hall Plaza in front of an estimated crowd of about 20,000 that turned up to celebrate your moment of personal achievement. The background and the intrigue, Ray, was quite involved in terms of how that came about, and being able to get the Bruins on board, which is the only way that you would do it. But eventually, you pulled it all together, and I had what was really a special moment for you with the hockey fans of the Hub of Hockey.
Yeah, my agent calls me and tells me that the mayor's wants to do something for me at City Hall, and I'm like, I don't think I could do that. I do not want to embarrass the Bruins. And he says, what about if the Bruins sign off on it? I said, that'd be the only way I think about it. So he calls the Bruins. Michael Connell's GM at the time, and he says we don't have a problem with it. So then I come back with the cup with my family. I have a good buddy that sends his 12-seat private jet to Colorado and picks us up and brings us back to Boston. And again, the cup is well secured in one of those seats. And I, go home, get to Boston, and just remember going to my buddy's house that night. Our Italian friends that just make amazing meals. Just going to their house and bringing the cup and just sitting it down, on the table, and then waking up to it the next morning with it in the kitchen, and you're like, oh my God, look at this thing. But just, having the day, having police escort from my house in Boxford, or Topsfield at the time, from Topsfield to Boston, all these motorcycles, escort bringing us to the city hall, and then coming out and seeing, the amount of people. You say 20, I'm thinking 10,000, but it was just amazing, and I was so appreciative of, going somewhere and people understanding and people being happy for you, and just legit happy. I'd run into so many people in the summer, and they were just, hey, we were watching you. You kept us up late at night watching you, in the Western Conference, and just I remember picking up my daughter at Milton. She was at a lacrosse camp, and this woman comes up to me, says, "I don't really watch hockey, but are you Ray Bourque?" I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "I watched that game," and she starts crying. I'm like, no, please. But it was stuff like that, and so it was amazing day, and I'm just happy the Bruins signed off on it, and we got to live that, because got to share it, with the many Bruins fans that kind of became Avalanche fans for a little bit.
No, indeed, they did. And absolutely, career-crafting moment. And Ray, I got to ask you. I know it's come up in the interim since that time. That was June of 2001. Boston, 15 years without a championship. About 8 months later, there was the first of the duck boat parades for the Patriots, Super Bowl champions. 12 titles would follow, 6 Super Bowls for the Patriots, 4 World Series for the Red Sox, another NBA title for the Celtics, and, of course, the Bruins in 2011. How much personal responsibility do you take, or how much credit do you take for really starting that championship? It really started with you. Nobody was at City Hall Plaza until you came back with that Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I joke about that I started the whole thing, right?
It's all you.
Because that year, the Patriots win, and I go to their first Super Bowl win in New Orleans, because I'm watching the Snow Bowl game, right, against the Raiders, the tuck rule and all that stuff, and my son Christopher, that ends up going to BU and scoring an overtime winning goal in the Beanpot final, and a freshman MVP of that tournament. Just going to pump his tires a little bit.
That's right. Feel free. I remember calling that one.
Was turning 16 a week later. So he says, "Dad, if the Patriots win this game, will you bring me to the Super Bowl for my birthday?" Okay. I'm like, maybe, yeah, I'll check into it. And it wasn't 2 weeks at that time. Right. It was just a week, right,
week
between games.
That's right.
So I got hard at work, and Luigi, my buddy, the Italian that we went for dinner with the cup when I brought it back that time, he has 3 sons. I went to school with my son, so his 3 sons, Luigi, myself, and my son Chris, went to watch them win in New Orleans. So, and bringing the cup back, I think kind of just, got things going for the next 2 decades.
Absolutely. Been quite a run for the last 20 years of championships. you're one of only 9 players to have their jersey retired by 2 teams. The Avalanche saw fit to retire number 77, as did the Bruins. And when it comes to jersey retirements, we're talking to a guy that had a rather unique experience when it came to jersey retirement. We're referring to 1979, excuse me, 1987 with Phil Esposito. And just to give a little bit of background about how that came about, with you, in effect, surrendering number 7 to Phil Esposito when the Bruins finally had him back and kind of mended the fences there, and for you being able to just double it up and become number 77, which, can you imagine if he hadn't have changed numbers, you all would have paid $7 for dinner tonight.
Or maybe 700.
Maybe 7, that's right. Add a couple of zeros.
Would have been a different meal, but the Bruins. I came to training camp. I wore number 29. Had a great camp. Led the team in scoring because I played every game in camp. And just, had a really good camp. Made the team. Was so excited about coming to my first game, and didn't know number 7 was going to be in my stall. So I get there expecting to wear number 29. Number 7's there. Again, I don't say much, right? I just get dressed and about to go out for warm-up, and Bobby Schmatz comes out and says, "Ray, you hear anything, any heckling, anything said to you? Don't worry about it. Just play your game." I knew, history of the Bruins and Phil Esposito and all that stuff. I knew the number I was going to wear. But again, I don't say nothing. I wear it, go off, have an amazing first year, and never hear anything about the number being retired other than the press coming up to me every once in a while asking me what I think about the number being retired. I always answered with, Phil is a legend here, won 2 cups, did amazing things here, of course. I mean, he deserves to have his number retired. I said, that's not up to me. And what happened is when they traded Phil, Harry and Phil really didn't speak to each other for a long time. They had a feud. Phil was so pissed at Harry. And you want to hear the story about when they traded Phil? It's a pretty good one.
Oh, yeah. Yep, 1975.
So 75, they decide to trade Phil Esposito. They're at the Bayshore Hotel in Vancouver, and Harry tells Don Cherry, "We just traded Phil. Go tell Phil he's been traded to the Rangers." Okay. He gets Bobby Orr and Wayne Cashman to come with him. So he knocks on the door. Phil opens the door. He's coming in here. He walks in with Bobby and Cash. And he says, "Phil," he says, "Don't tell me. I don't want to know. Don't tell me. And if you friggin' tell me it's the friggin' Rangers, I'm jumping out that friggin' window."
Right out the window.
He says, "Cash, get in front of the window."
That's right. That's right.
So I wore the number and was killing it, right? And nothing was ever said about the number being retired. Even when they decided that they picked a day, December 3rd, 1987, that it was going to be retired, nothing was said till 1 o'clock that afternoon. Terry Riley calls me from Harry Sinden's office, and now he says, "Ray, number's going up tonight. What are you thinking?" I'm like, "Guys, what do you mean, what am I thinking? It's friggin' 1 o'clock." I said, I mean, this is so messed up. The communication that, I said, I can't, the number's got to go up. So, we come up with, I'm going to add a number 7. I'm going to go out for warm-up, wear number 7, come back, go in the back room, put number 77, under 7, then come back out and ask Phil to come up and then reveal my number. But it was so messed up, but the way it worked out amazingly because no press, none of my teammates knew, and I drove in with Glenn Wesley and Keith Crowder. The only people that knew was trainers, management, coaches. That's it. And my wife. So it was a shock, a surprise to everybody. And When I saw Phyllis Pizzuto's face, I knew I made his life right there. It was the first time ever Phyllis Pizzuto was ever seen speechless.
That's never happened.
But it was an amazing night. It was so much fun to be part of, and anything that I've ever done in my career, what comes first with, I'd say, 85% of the fans is that night. That's what they talk about.
Absolutely. And I've heard that story on the other side from Phil. And if Wayne Cashman had just been a little bit slower, we might be talking about Phil in the past tense. He might have made it to the window and potentially a jump from the base shore. So
But he would have fell into the ocean.
that's right. Exactly. Your career culminated, obviously, with your Stanley Cup moment, and then your Hall of Fame induction in 2004. And ever humble. I know the quote from your induction about being completely speechless, and that you never contemplated it when you were starting out. But there you were, enshrined in the Hall of Fame, and that was now, you look back, almost 20 years now removed from your career. And for some that may not know it, but just to let our audience know, with our YouTube channel live tonight, and also on Sirius XM NHL Radio, your favorite station, number 91, the Where is Ray Today? He's obviously playing a home game with us here tonight, but to give us some insight about the Ray Bourque Foundation that you formed in 2017, Ray.
Yeah, well, we all were part of doing stuff in the community, playing with the Bruins and, doing our thing and going to different events or golf tournaments and all that stuff. And then after my career ended, I was doing a lot of stuff for a certain charity and then just decided that, we're going to start our own family foundation. So it's been almost 7 years now, I think.
2017.
And all the kids are involved, the grandkids are involved. So we had a golf tournament that, we've had a very successful golf tournament that I've been involved with for many, many years. We just continued that, and it's become the Bourque Family Foundation, the Bourque Golf Tournament. And then we created a road race and a walk that is our second big event. And then my wife asked if we could have something that has nothing to do with sports. And she wanted this night that all the girls got dressed up, black tie, gowns, and the whole works. So we created it was called the Black and White Ball the first year, pre-COVID. And then during COVID, we had to cancel 3 times. And during that time, well, I'll back up just a little bit, that I was here with Pete Frady when he was diagnosed at 27 years old with ALS, sitting at that table over there with his family and trying to figure out how can we raise awareness and money for ALS. And during that time, we did a lot of things with ALS and all that stuff. But our first ball to the second time we could have it, Pete passed. And I decided to have the ball in memory of Pete Frady starting last year from going forward. The Healy Center is at a Mass General here, where the research is happening. From last year, there's 3 new medicine that came out for ALS. The research is going strong. And then part of it as well is for the Pete Frady's Family Foundation. His mom, Nancy, that is an amazing woman that goes all over the world talking about ALS and talks to so many people that are affected, moms, siblings, and all this stuff about what she went through and how to deal with all this stuff. And when you're diagnosed with this, it's so bad that you don't know how to think. Well, she talks to a lot of these families about how you should be thinking and where you should be going and how you should be doing it. So, amazing woman. She has she gives out grants to families that are affected with ALS. So this ball is very special to me and my family because of the relationship that we had with the Frades and ALS being what it is. And dollars are needed big, big, big time. So this event is important for us. Last year, we donated almost 300,000 from our and it's something that I'd like to grow into, giving out 500,000, $1 million a year to ALS research and the Pete Frates Family Foundation. So that's one side of it. Then the golf tournament and the walk and the run. We try to support people that support us with different, a whole bunch of different things that we've been involved with, giving back to different charities and so it's been very fulfilling. My two boys are retired now, but they played hockey, one for 11 years, professional hockey, the other one from 17. My daughter's 39. They've all been around raising money and seeing me do it and now being involved as a family. It's really important for us. So really proud of everybody's involvement and what we've done and where we're going. And then we have some one-offs that we raise money in different ways. But it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun and very rewarding, and we're very involved. So I had a meeting this morning about the ball with Nancy Frady and our group, Bourque Family Foundation, at the offices this morning for about 2 hours, and we're getting ready to gear up for a big event, September 21st.
Mhm.
So should be fun. So you go to bourquefamilyfoundation.org. You'll hear all about us, and hopefully we meet again and making a difference.
I'm kind of almost, I kind of refer to that as the hockey prom, if you will, for September 21st. So you can get dressed up and enjoy a great evening at Big Night Boston. I'm just going to, I've got a quote here. I always close with a quote for our program for Games People Play, and then we'll open it up. Sasha will be able to go around with the mic there, and we kind of get some questions. If there was any questions that weren't asked or answered, we got a little Q&A.
Can I just
Sure.
one thing?
Yes.
I'm a restaurateur as well. Bill Galitis, one of my partners, in the corner. Rich and Sarah, that's in the kitchen, that cooked your food tonight. And Peter Weber is another one of our partners. So Pete's the marketing guy, the numbers guy, and the chef that's here, and it's an amazing team that we've been together for almost 8 years now, Bill. And I've been involved in this restaurant for 19 years. I tell you, it's a tough business. And we had our ups and downs for the first 10 years. They weren't part of my group. But I got to tell you, since they've been part of my group, this restaurant has flourished. Our team that served you tonight are amazing, and it all starts, it all starts from the top with leadership, with our ownership group, our chef, and the staff that's been here with us, and does an amazing job. So I just wanted to say how proud am I of this whole place.
I wasn't going to forget them. They're going to end up getting thanked twice, and they should probably get thanked three times here tonight for all their efforts. My quote that I selected, I think Ray will appreciate it because of the author of the quote. And there's a lot of things that said about Ray and superlatives, and why wouldn't there be, about his career and his life and times. But I particularly like this one. He was a two-way player, and he was so durable. He seldom got injured, even though he played more than half the game. He played on some good teams in Boston because he made them good. I always felt that he was very similar to Dennis Potvin. Both were great passers, had a terrific feel for the game, and they were strong. Nobody ever would push them around, and that was from none other than the guy that you grew up idolizing his teams and the holy trinity of defensemen that you got a chance to watch on a regular basis with Robinson and Savard and LaPointe. And that quote came from Scotty Bowman. So high praise indeed from Scotty Bowman. And once again, we'll allow for some Q&A now. And Anybody that has any questions? Yep, yep.
You can just yell it out. Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Got questions?
Gonna make it official.
Official.
Vanna White.
Yep.
I had the question, what made you come back to Boston to have your family stay here and live in the North Shore, and you grew up in Canada?
Well, we always thought we'd retired in Montreal, but after having 3 kids, and then they get busy doing their things, and we'd always go back to Montreal. We built a big house there on a golf course that we thought we'd go back to, and then the kids got busy, and then it was just we'd come back for a few weeks, and because they had stuff going on here, and then after that time, we just recognized that Boston was home, and it's a tremendous place to raise a family. There's such a pulse in this city. It's so alive. There's so much things to do. There's everything you could think of. You got the schools, the hospitals, but you got the water, the mountains. It's just, and then the suburbs are fabulous, and the passion that they have for their sports. It's just a great spot. And for us, being so close to Montreal, 5-hour drive, it's so easy to get back. And we used to get back a lot more than we do now. But it's just, it was home. It's home, and always will be. Yeah, thank you.
Next question, anybody? Anyone? Over here? We got one over here. Gentleman in the back there.
Maybe you want to top 10 fans right there.
Top 10, is that right?
Oh yeah,
Yep,
oh yeah.
yep.
Thank you,
We,
Ray.
we go way back.
Way back, yes, since Ray's rookie year. So Ray, I know you're a very, very busy person. Have you ever considered going into coaching?
Yeah, I coach my sons, but when I retired, I'm too old to coach now. I've been out of the game too long, but I consulted one year with the Bruins for home games, home practices, and you got to be all in to coach, and I wasn't ready to do that. When I came back after 22 years, travel and everything, and missing out on a lot of stuff with the kids. My daughter was a senior at Governor Dummer. She was playing basketball, lacrosse, and soccer. Just enjoyed watching her. And then my son was first year in prep school at Cushing, and I was going down there a couple times a week to help out in practice. And then I'd be there behind the bench working with the D during games. Then my youngest son, Steve Casper, and I, both our sons, was on that team, so we were coaching that. And then I kind of got a gig with Bank North. I was a spokesman with Bank North. I ended up being TD Bank. That lasted for 11 years, and I did some stuff for the Premium Club, luxury seating, and the Bruins, and so I had some stuff going on, but still a lot of free time to do the stuff that I wanted to do with the kids. And the more you're away from it and out of it, it's tough to get back in. And I would have had to gone right from player. And Pierre Lacroix, the year I was out, gave me a call, and he was firing Bob Hartley, and he wanted me to go coach his team. I was like, I don't think so.
Good move. Considering the fact that in 20 years you had 10 coaches with the Bruins, the life expectancy is pretty short.
Well, Harry, 12, because Harry coached
That's right.
twice.
He was twice as an interim. That's right. So Harry always counts twice. Anybody else? Question?
One right here.
All right. Right here. Yeah, I was going to say, you don't do that. That's right.
Who is the toughest person you ever played against?
There you go.
You mean best player? Okay, so for me, even with Wayne, when Mario Lemieux's switch was on, was the best player I've ever played against.
Oh.
His size, his speed, his skill, everything, was an amazing player. But I'll go back to Gretzky because his switch was always on. But Mario, I tell you, and I played international hockey for Canada in 81, 84, 87, and 98 in the Olympics. But the Canada Cups I played in, 87, seeing Gretzky and Mario Lemieux play on the same line during that whole tournament, and the finals was the best of 3 against the Russians. All 3 games were 6-5. I mean, I had the best seat in the house watching those 2 guys just go at it. It was amazing.
Question? Next question? Right here? Okay.
When?
Ray's era? Yep. Yep.
Well, Jay Miller was pretty tough with us. I never saw Jay get beat up or lose a fight. But yeah, he does an amazing job there. But you know, I broke in with John Wensing, Tara Riley, Stan Jonathan, Al Secourt. Remember my first exhibition game against Philly Flyers in Providence, and John Wensing fought this guy at the blue line, and all I could hear when he hit this guy was, I was like, okay, it's like the biggest sound. It was like, oh my God. And John Wensing's fists were like this, but the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet are those guys. They're like teddy bears right off the ice, and on the ice, it's, you know,
Different
a little
story.
different.
Yeah, a little bit different. Other questions? Got in the back over there. You got Ryan?
Mine is more a statement than a question. On behalf of everybody here and every Boston Bruins fan in the city of Boston, thank you for allowing us to watch your career through the years and for bringing the cup back into Boston, because I don't think there's a single one of us that watches that highlight of you holding that cup that doesn't take and still cry. So thank you for always being the ultimate gentleman and the best representation of what a Boston Bruin was all about and is all about.
Thank you. You're going to make me cry. Can I tell a funny story?
Yes, yes, please do.
So we never initiated guys in Boston, you know, like shaving heads or
Hazing.
you know,
Yep.
any hazing or stuff like that. So the rookies started making some really big bucks, like Alexander Day came in and all that stuff. Then the rookie salaries, there was no entry level salary, so they were making millions coming in. So then, instead of hazing, we'd have rookie meals at a restaurant like this, right? And if you ever part of a hockey team, whenever there's a team meal, there's always somebody that gets shoe checked. Like all of a sudden, somebody starts tapping the glasses. Then you look at your shoe.
Butter.
You have mustard, ketchup,
Yeah.
something
We
really
use butter
gross.
at BU.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and some stuff doesn't come off, right? So at our rookie meal in Tampa Bay one year, I sit in the corner somewhere where I got a little shelf that I could put my shoes on that I'm not going to get shoe checked. They're really new shoes with a tassel, and they're really nice shoes. So we start ordering drinks and food starts coming out, and what comes out in my shoe without the tassel is a lobster tail. I'm captain of the team now. I'm sitting with Adam Oates, Don Sweeney, Rob DeMaio, a team of veterans, right?
Yeah.
I get up, I'm friggin' bullshit. I get up, I'm like, I don't care who you are, but you are dead. I'm gonna find out who did this, and you're going down. You're going down. Adam Oates is like, Ray, I'm on it. He finds out it's Kyle McLaren, a rookie.
Oh, McLaren, yeah. Yeah.
So Kyle's got this leather jacket that he was wearing that night. Thin, really nice. He goes to the bathroom. I grab his jacket. I go in the kitchen. The chef slices both sleeves. I put it back. Now it's a vest. So now he comes back and he's like, what the hell? I'm like, I told you, you mess around with the wrong guy. He said, what? I said, you mess around with the wrong guy. It wasn't Kyle. It was Adam Oates. They asked me, what do you miss most about not playing in the NHL? It's like pregame meals and pregame naps and acting like a 15-year-old every day.
That's right. How do you not miss that? Adam Oates was on it, though. He wasn't kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. He was on it. Anybody else? Question? Yep. Yep. All right.
What do you think about the speed of the game today, and how would you compare?
Well, I don't think it's comparable. I mean, the fast skaters back then were fast and all that, but you didn't have as many. The rules were a lot different that prevented you from skating fast sometimes with the hooks and the grab and the holding
Clutch
and all
and
that
grab.
stuff.
Yep.
Not that I ever did that.
No, God, no.
But,
wasn't implying anything.
But it just keeps getting better, you know, just like when I entered the league till I came out of the league, how much better it got over those 22 years. It just keeps getting better. It's fast. It's an amazing game. I'm really happy how they call the games with no hooking, no grabbing, no clutching, no red line. That would have been a lot of fun to play
Open it
without. So with the puck, I would have loved playing in the game. Without it, would have been tougher. But
Challenge.
I think I would have handled it. But all decades are, they're different, and the great players and the good players, it's all the same, but it's better, right? What's available for them, the training and everything, and just like they're machines, Oh yeah, but it's fun to watch, especially playoff hockey, right?
Absolutely. Wish we'd had more of it in Boston. That's right. Anybody else? We got? Oh, over here. Okay.
Ray, thank you for the evening. I've really enjoyed your entire career, and tonight was especially nice. I just wish my son here had an opportunity to see you in your playing days. Little guy played a little bit when he was young, but now he's staying active in the sport by refereeing. Do you have any stories or insights of how you good players gamed the officials over the years?
Well, I remember my first experience with a ref at a young age where I got into a fight. I think I was playing mosquito hockey, right? And I was, not big, and the ref just picks you up, puts you in a box, and he says, "Stop watching TV." What he meant is stop watching the hockey games. Yeah, you work him, I was always respectful with the refs, and they really appreciate that, Then there would come a time where you went nuts, and then because of all the good you did, they kind of looked past it, and I got stung pretty early in my career. Trying to remember his name. We were in Washington one night, and I get a penalty, and I say something to the ref, right? I'm a rookie. Now you're out for 4 minutes, not 2. He tees you
The
up,
extra.
and it's like, okay. Yeah. Pretty quick lesson that night, but like Stewie, Paul Stewart.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, the guy was in the corner, in the way and pushing guys. Like, the play's going on, and he's like, "You got the puck," and he'd be like,
He thought he was still playing.
"Oh,
Yeah.
nuts, nuts." And then Kerry Fraser with his perfect hair and
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He strutted around.
characters, man.
Yeah.
Then you had Hogarth that was, I don't know what, somebody put jock itch in his underwear, but, grabbing his crotch every friggin' second. I'm like, Hoagie, come on. You're on TV.
Right.
Characters, though.
Anybody else? Questions? Okay.
I know some people have stuff to sign.
Yeah, I got one other question for you, Ray. Sasha, I guess you can get ready to close us out. But the question I had, and you just referred to family, and one note that I had that did not mention was the commitment that your dad had to you and your career. You talked about living across the street and being in charge of the lights, which was a very important job to have. But I noted in my research that he would routinely drive 250 miles to go watch you play all the way through juniors. And if you could just, I think, kind of illustrate the value of family. You talked about the value of your family and watching your kids play, coaching your kids, being able to see them. You had a really nice gift for your dad when you signed that first pro contract. I thought that was a great story to really illustrate you and being all about family.
Well, my dad, was always very involved, very supportive. Like I said, we didn't have that much, but my dad was an electrician in Montreal. I had a younger brother that played hockey as well. And we had good stuff, but, not the best. But he was working, he'd work on weekends and be doing stuff for extra money for us to be able to play. And I just remember my dad had this pickup truck with a cab on top of it. And he, I said we played against other towns, other cities around Montreal. So, you could go anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes an hour to play these other teams. So he would put all the equipment in the back of his pickup truck, and then we'd all sit on the equipment in the back going to these games. And my friends to this day still talk about the fun that we had in the back of that pickup truck going to games, right? And then he'd come see me play, always supportive, after losing my mom, it was tough there, but he was always there supporting us and getting us what we needed. And he'd drive quite a ways to watch me play junior games. He wouldn't miss many of my games. A very proud dad till the end. I mean, winning the cup and having him there to see it and witness it, and having him come to the Hall of Fame induction. It was amazing to see him. He was very emotional and all these things. But when I signed my first contract, my dad had never had a new car. So I bought him a Caprice Classic, a black and gray two-tone Caprice Classic, and I bought my stepmother a washer and dryer.
It's all about
and
family.
She was really happy, believe me.
Yeah.
Maybe more than my dad.
Yeah, exactly. All about family. Sasha, you got some thank yous for us, as I'm going to say a final thank you to Ray in just a moment. Sasha.
Yes, like Ray mentioned, thank you to everyone for coming tonight, and we would like to thank everyone here at Tresca for making this special edition of Games People Play possible, with special thanks to Bill Galatis, Jennifer Bacon, Rich and Sarah, and Peter Weber, and a thanks to our team at Games People Play Podcast, the executive producer and co-founder Andy Bernstein, our sound engineer Matt Carter, and of course the face and the voice of the podcast, Bernie Corbett. I'm the assistant producer, Sasha Abrams, and the biggest thank you of the night to number 77, Ray Bourque.
Thank you, Ray. You played very well on the games people played tonight.
Thank you, buddy. Good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome job, Bernie. Thank you.